So welcome to New Rules for Real Estate Investing, or should we say rewriting the rules for real estate investing. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we hope today's session finds your family as well. Lex recently announced that it has selected Nasdaq to power its first trading platform, which will allow accredited and unaccredited investors to invest in individual properties, essentially democratizing the opportunity to invest in real estate. And by leveraging the cloud matching service via the Nasdaq Marketplace Services Platform, Lex will be able to unlock previously unavailable matching opportunities between property owners, retail and institutional investors at speed and scale. And with that, let's get right into it. I'm excited to introduce our panelists. We have Drew Sterrett, who's a co-founder and CEO of Lex. We also have Mark Driscoll, Associate Vice President with Market Technology at Nasdaq. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us in today's session. And Drew, this platform is exciting. Tell us about Lex. Tell us about the genesis behind it.
So the genesis really originated one late night while I was working at my job in real estate private equity. It was after midnight. I do remember that, since I was like, oh my goodness, I have another 2 hours before I go home. But I got a phone call from my brother, and we were looking to invest a portion of our portfolio into real estate, and the only available option were public REITs. And for a number of reasons, especially given how I had a background in commercial real estate and understood how real estate worked on a fundamental level and sort of how REITs work on a public level, highly correlated with the markets, sort of felt like there was a disconnect with one of the oldest and largest asset classes in the world, and wanted to really ask the question of how do we have one of the largest wealth creators and no public and liquid market? And that was sort of the genesis, origin story of Lex. Really diving in deep and just asking, why hasn't this happened before, and how can we make this work?
Yeah, it's really interesting how you've been able to democratize it. And that's exactly it. We always hear this conversation that property ownership, whether it's real estate or commercial, is the way to generate wealth, but it certainly is unattainable on several levels. So Mark, tell us a bit more about the technology and how you've partnered with Lex, because it sounds just as if it's like any other trading platform that we'd be more familiar with.
Well, we were very fortunate to be introduced to Drew and to his team and his idea. One of the things about Nasdaq that a lot of folks don't know is that we're a tech company. We're highly entrenched in the technology provision business. And when you think of Nasdaq, you think of sort of the four main pillars, and people obviously know us as a listing market. But four of the pillars are the listings and trading. And obviously our market data. But the fourth pillar, which is our fastest growing pillar, is our market technology business. So we provide our market tech, the same technology that's been running, it runs our core markets, and we provide a whole host of different customer bases around the world, both large and small. So we're a huge advocate for the type of exchanges that, or marketplaces that Drew and his team have created, taking our technology and fitting it into the type of marketplace that they're looking to create, which is really new and exciting.
And Mark, this is all cloud-based, right?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we launched recently what's called our Marketplace Services Platform. So that's the ability to take a market from front to back and spin it up quickly and putting it up in the cloud. So we offer a whole host of services, whether it's a matching engine, which we're working with Drew and his team on, pre-trade, post-trade risk, surveillance solutions as well. But all of this can be hosted and operated in the cloud. So we provide it as a service. We customize it, we tailor it to a particular marketplace. But ultimately, it's the same core technology that we use to run our own, operate our own markets, of which we own and operate 28, both in the U.S. and Europe. But yes, we're cloud agnostic, and it's an absolutely new business line for us, and something we're really excited about offering this service in the cloud.
All right, Drew, let's talk about the real estate market and the fundamentals behind it, because that really is your area of expertise. And talking about, is this a unique time to invest, particularly in the commercial market space? The narrative in financial media right now is, what is it going to look like? Will we ever go back to work? Will it be a hybrid model? Will commercial real estate be obsolete? It sounds as if there's a lot of opportunity there, but a lot of unknowns as well.
Yes, I would say it's actually really interesting since, especially for our business line, I wish COVID had never happened, but it's actually been great to have sort of this new emerging tech and sort of creating a new capital market solution for the real estate market at large because there are so many unknowns. I think it's sort of funny, actually, before we went live, you and I were even talking about how we're ready to get back to work at least part-time, but I do think we'll see a lot more remote working, at least where some people will be in the office a few days a week and then working from home, since we've all been doing it for many months now. But commercial real estate's going nowhere. I think there are a whole lot of uncertainties of what the future exactly looks like, but it is not obsolete. And if anything, there's more and more opportunity presenting itself given where the markets are.
Yeah, I would agree with you there too. And, you know, we're human beings, we're social animals. Our memory is very short term and time heals old wounds. So I would agree with you. I think that we will have that hybrid marketplace. And you have to remember, there's also going to be generations of younger people who are coming on and want that experience of being in the office and working in the city. So I think it'll evolve similar to what we saw after 9/11. We had to get used to different travel restrictions and protocols. And I can't even remember the shift. And so I think we will eventually get used to different health protocols as we work through this. And that could be a good thing too. You know, maybe that was a wake-up call in some respects. So let's go back to this being a cloud-based matching service. Why did you select the Nasdaq platform?
So we selected Nasdaq for a number of reasons. One is they're one of the most forward-thinking sort of exchanges out there, and also technology platforms. So number one is sort of aligning yourselves with the best technology available to the public market. And then also they sort of saw the same vision and dream that we did, where they knew that this was the market they wanted to participate in. They've seen a whole bunch of groups who have tried to do it before, and they sort of believed in our vision and are able to help us scale much faster than anticipated, and also sort of provide the reliability to all the financial institutions that we're working with. So sort of we view Nasdaq as a side-by-side partner in this endeavor.
Yeah, and Mark, I want to throw it back over to you. If we talk about cloud-based technologies more holistically, what does it allow companies to do? How can it enable their operations and help them drive their innovation going forward?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the time to market is dramatically from a standalone configured build. So the ability to get a market like Drew's up and running quickly is first and foremost a real advantage with hosting it in the cloud. Secondly, for particularly a company that's in a startup phase, I mean, we offer a number of services to be able to do it in the cloud, and part of that is offering technical operations. So as opposed to having to go out, find your own data center, find your own space, and hire somebody to maintain that, and then Lex is going to be running a market that's basically 24/7, is an extra cost to them. So we take that off their plate, so to speak. And I think the third part of that that's really important is the ability to do I guess I would call it sort of add-on services. So any upgrades, any addition of any extra services that we offer along the lines of those other products that I'd mentioned, like surveillance and risk, very, very easy to integrate them quickly on our side. So when you talk about what we really want is for Drew and his team to focus on what their expertise is, which is the real estate marketplace, democratizing it, and creating a very effective market. What we want to be is the backbone behind that, and allow them to go out and to do their thing, and for us to be the backbone behind them to make sure it's seamless.
And actually, I want to give Mark and the Nasdaq team credit as well, because they also have the ability to support a number of different types of securities, and also sort of they have the ability to truly customize the entire platform to what our needs are, since our needs are very different than national exchanges. And while we're structured as an alternative trading system, an ATS, it is the fundamental infrastructure is of an exchange, but they truly can work with us through anything that we're building and that we're looking to support and bring to the market.
So Drew, specifically with the cloud technology, what that's going to enable Lex to do?
So for us, I would say one of the largest and sort of the greatest part about it is building an exchange is a large endeavor, especially one that's robust, that can handle all the uptime. It doesn't matter what type of system you're dealing with, everything goes down, except when you're dealing with financial securities and markets. You need to make sure that everything is running smoothly and perfectly 99.999% of the time. And that's what Nasdaq is enabling us to do without having a migraine. And they're just working hand in hand to make sure that we have that reliability, which is really what people are looking for. And also on the order execution and making sure that the universal matching system is doing everything that it's supposed to. It's great to have Nasdaq as the backbone support for it.
Yeah, it was like you and I were saying before we were signing on. Technology is awesome when it works, but so that's why you definitely want your matching engine working at 99.9999% of the time. Let's learn more about the investing aspect of Lex so that our audience can understand it a little bit better. So essentially, and I mentioned this in the intro, that it's democratizing commercial real estate for all, and you can buy it in slices. So $100, so I can get on the platform, buy $100, where something I wouldn't be able to find a team of investors and partners and get into commercial real estate in some place like Manhattan, for example. So is it really as simple as that? And then what makes the investment go up or down? Is it the same as the stock, more buyers and have your price go up, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so as little as $100, of course, you can invest more. Each one of the securities are registered with the DTCC and our QSIP. So it allows for the securities to trade across all financial institutions, so across every single brokerage house and wirehouse, actually both domestically and internationally. And it's really exciting since Nasdaq's infrastructure is letting us do that in a much more quick and able ability, since a number of the firms that we're dealing with are already connected to a number of Nasdaq's other securities markets as well. And then from an asset perspective, it allows sort of the little people and even the big people to invest side by side with the largest real estate owners and institutions in the world that even if you're in the 0.01%, you couldn't be in these assets. And so now you're side by side, pari passu, equity holders. And then for the markets going up and down, is the same thing as the capital markets we see right now, where if you see new information, new leases, appreciation, depreciation, since the market can go both ways, it's not always up and to the right. Although we're not seeing that right now. Don't fight the Fed. But no, the same things that affect the public markets are really what affect the price of the stocks. It's what are the buildings valued at? What are the cash flows? What are the yields? Since we're dealing with core plus stabilized assets, so they all are cash flow producing when we're taking them through their initial offering period. And then as they're trading on the secondary market, and then the same market effects that you see that affect the public markets will be affecting these stocks as well.
What's a few $1 trillion between friends? Wait until we have to figure out how this is going to get paid back. That'll be, we can have a webinar on that for a separate time, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of participation there. So Mark, I want to swing it back to you. And it's just so exciting that Nasdaq is looking to get into different kinds of markets, not your traditional asset classes that we normally associate it with. So from a market technology perspective, can you tell us about the different markets that we're looking to enter, these alternative kinds of markets?
Well, I like to use the term. I say we consider ourselves, I used to call it, new market evangelists. I mean, this is we feel right in our wheelhouse, and this is a really exciting growth opportunity for us. So we see this business expanding far beyond what people would think of as the traditional marketplace. So when you think of a market, that can mean a whole lot of different things to different people. I mean, it could mean something like a supermarket, obviously, or it could mean something like an Airbnb. Ultimately, it's bringing buyer and seller together. So there's a certain consistency with that, along with the markets that people know. What the Lex team has done is what other folks have done around the world. Was they found a market. It's a huge market. In fact, I hate to call it a non-financial market because it's a massive market financially. But they found, like Drew had his epiphany at midnight, they found an inefficiency in a very large market, and their job is to make it efficient. And they've included us as a partner in that. So. But over the past couple of years, this is a trend that we're seeing, and we're really excited about it. But it's been everything from creating marketplaces around loyalty points to digital advertising derivatives to we recently launched a market in Europe where they're trading interests in soccer player performance. So, all these things they're marketplaces, and it's a great business for us. And Lex is a really top at the front example of that, of a group of guys who got together and decided that we can do this, we can create a market and make it transparent. And we're just excited to be a part of it. But it really is, we're seeing a lot of different industries that you wouldn't think of, everything from sports and gaming to obviously real estate. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, it certainly is exciting. And Drew and I were talking about this when we first signed on earlier. And we wonder why, with the lack of sports, why we're attracting so many new investors and traders to the market, because there are a lot of similarities in sports betting. And, you need to exchange a conduit to have the buyer and the seller, the better on one side and the better on the other. That's how the odds are established. So I think it's really interesting what we're seeing in this environment right now. And everyone is learning that essentially everything can be a marketplace. And I think that's really exciting. Drew, any thoughts around that?
No, I think just the whole idea with anything can be a marketplace is the most important part for any market is liquidity. And actually, that's also one of the things that we're excited about, since what it takes to create a true liquid market is retail participants, market makers, and also the institutional players all playing side by side. And we've just seen great traction, and also working with Nasdaq has made that process much easier for us to try and bring true liquidity to an asset class that has known to be very illiquid with long hold periods. So it'll make it so we can transact in under a second.
So what's your long-term objective with Lex?
Compete with Nasdaq, except in the commercial real estate space.
That's great.
No. We're trying to create a securities market that really addresses the fundamental needs of this specific asset area. And Nasdaq's the group that we partnered with to do it. So just excited to grow side by side with Nasdaq as they expand their offerings and continue to support us as we become a new trading venue specifically for commercial real estate and other derivative products around it. Since it's a multi-trillion-dollar asset class, a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, and I think especially too with a trading platform such as that, you also don't have the limitations of accredited investors only being allowed to participate, because that really narrows down the playing field. And we're starting to see this across a number of brokers. I believe Fidelity has slices. A lot of these broker firms are slicing up securities to make it more accessible for everyone. So I feel like the growth potential here is huge, especially in the real estate market, because it only was limited to such a finite group of people that had the resources to do it. And also not having that lockup period is key too. I think this is completely untapped, and I agree with you there.
Yeah, and the other thing that we also really support is transparency, since a lot of times when you go into funds or even into both public and private REITs, you really don't know what you're investing in. And real estate is actually much more simple, in my opinion, than traditional public securities. I know Lemonade just IPO'd, and they're worth 4.5 billion with only 27 million in revenue. So not sure if I can truly understand the price to earnings multiple there, but it's a lot easier for everyone to understand, and it's a lot more tangible, since in every single way, shape, or form, all of us deal with real estate. We either rent an apartment, own a home, or go to work. So it's something that we're just also trying to educate, and are working with Nasdaq to educate the public on this new set of securities and having access to them.
Yeah, I think back to that point. I mean, the average person, I used to do the average person, like when you look at your portfolio, if you want to invest in real estate right now, it's sort of a REITs, basically one of your own options. And I don't claim to be an expert in that, but there are costs that come along with that. And there are, management fees and things like that and you don't really, like Drew said, you don't really know what's in it, or to the level of granularity that you want. And I think what this is doing, and a lot of these new markets are doing, is they're allowing the retail investor to really, spread out their risk amongst other asset classes that they just never had the correct type of access to. So that's another reason like we're excited about this, because we think that this opens up a whole new way of thinking for the average investor.
Yeah, for sure. And even back to the REIT conversation, I mean, REITs are just, when you do the fundamental analysis on them, they're different than any other kind of traditional equity security, if you will. I mean, even the way they report earnings is completely different than the way you would typically analyze a stock. So there is just such a level of complexity that's removed.
Yeah. And so what we've worked to do is just remove all of that complexity so you understand on an asset by asset basis truly what you're investing in and what you're purchasing.
So how does that work? Let's say I want to invest in a particular building in New York City, right? We'll use that. Everyone's familiar with the landscape of New York.
Should we do One Liberty Plaza?
Oh, well, soon to be former HQ.
Yeah.
So for those of you not familiar with Nasdaq structure, all of our New York City offices are going to be housed where our Times Square tower is, in this brand new amazing office space. Hopefully we'll be there earlier in 2021, but we're going to have our market site tower and our corporate offices and our event space and everything all in one spot. It's really super cool. We have a 2,000 square foot terrace that overlooks Times Square, which is pretty amazing. So I would imagine that would be a, what's the right word? Like a gem in New York City, being in Times Square, having outdoor space. I mean, that's got to be one of the most valuable spots in Manhattan.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So is that something where, let's say I want to own a piece of that, can you do that on Lex? How does it work?
Absolutely. So we do equity recapitalizations. So this is not development or acquisition financing. These are assets that are owned by certain institutions and companies where on an asset by asset basis, they say, okay, we want to do an equity recapitalization, usually up to 49% of the equity. So you can go anywhere in between, just depending on the size of the asset. But most of these assets are encumbered. So you run into loan transfer restrictions and transfer taxes when you go above 49%. And also it creates an alignment of interest with the real estate owner by staying as a minority owner and while having them also in the deal. So we come in and we do an equity recapitalization. And then once the SEC filings are qualified, you then have publicly traded securities that are structured as PTPs, which are publicly traded partnerships. And you are a co-owner in the new Nasdaq building right in Times Square.
Like, Mark, we could actually own a piece of our office building. How cool is that?
I want the deck that overlooks the Times Square ball.
I think stake their claim on that. So we have just about a few minutes here. I'm not sure if there's any questions from the audience, but in the interest of wrapping up over the next 5 minutes, I think it would be really helpful, Drew, if you could give us a high-level overview of what you think the future of this industry is going to look like near term and longer term. And then Mark, I'll also ask you to follow up as it applies to newer markets and cloud-based technologies.
So I think commercial real estate overall, I mean, we're going through a period of turbulence, and also real estate as a slow-moving industry lags. So while you see the public markets doing their thing on one side, commercial real estate does not act in the same way right now. So we're going to see a lot of changes over the next, I would say really we're going to start seeing changes in Q4 into Q1 of next year, since there actually just haven't been that many transactions over the period of COVID, because you don't have price discovery in the private markets, and when transactions don't occur, because you actually have to do large transactions to trade buildings right now from one owner to another. We're about to have a lot more price transparency into sort of really how these assets are now going to be repriced given COVID, and sort of what markets are truly attractive and opening up versus other asset classes. It's sort of interesting since it's a unknown sort of piece of paper, and we're going to see the puzzle unfold.
All right. And then Mark, as you look towards the future of cloud-based technologies and the offerings that Nasdaq has as a fintech company, expanding into all these newer markets, what's your near-term and longer-term outlook?
Well, there's no question that we're looking to do more and more in the cloud, and a lot of that's coming from obviously what customers want. They want scalability, they want faster times to market, and it just fits very, very well in this new markets concept that's growing so fast within market technology at Nasdaq. So We see that expanding, tremendously, and we're looking forward to the opportunities that holds.
All right. Unless there's anything else anyone needs to add, we're coming up to our end time here. I don't think we have any questions, unless I'm not looking in the right spot. Let's see, let's type in here and see if anyone has any questions. I don't think we have any questions. I don't see a Q&A tab, so I just want to make sure I'm looking in the right spot. But I thought that was fantastic. I've certainly learned a lot. I'm excited to check it out. I think it's really cool that we can own a piece of our building where we work. I never thought that would ever be a possibility. It's just so exciting that this asset class is accessible to everyone now. Someone's asking, where do we go to invest? How can they access the platform, Joe?
So right now you can access it via web or mobile. So on the App Store for iOS, it's Lex, L-E-X, or you can go to www.lexmarkets.com and create an account and see the initial offerings. And we have a whole bunch more. So we're ready to help or have NASDAQ help us lift that load as we're moving more product than we know what to do with into the capital markets. It's exciting.
That is exciting. We'll have to see all the traders that are moving the markets in March, April, and May, where we saw that volatility come into a new marketplace. I mean, it could be the next what do you say, stay-at-home trade environment. But no, I mean, longer term, it's really an awesome opportunity. Yes. All right. Any other questions? I think we are good, guys. So thank you so much to our panelists for spending time with us today. And of course, to all of our listeners and the event organizers for the opportunity to tell this story on behalf of Lex and NASDAQ. And that's a wrap.
Thank you so much for having us, Jill. Yeah. Much appreciated. And thank you to the Treasury team.
Thank you all so much. Thanks, Jill.
All right. Take care, everyone.